Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting of the Village of Campton Hills to order. It's February 3rd, 2026. What's the time, Tracy?
7:08.
It's 7:08. Roll call, please.
Trustee Benetti?
Here.
Trustee Boatner?
Here.
Trustee Burson? Here. Trustee Hassenberger?
Here.
Trustee Millette?
Present.
Trustee Muir?
Here.
And President Wodnicki.
Present. Okay, and we'd like to welcome Troop 56 Scouting America, and they will do the pledge for us. And whenever you're ready, let us know. Is the mic
Okay.
on?
Color guard attention. Audience, please rise. Scout salute. Those not in uniform, please place your right hand over your heart. Color guard forward march. Color guard halt. Prepare to post the colors. Post the colors. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Color guard, return to rank. Okay, color guard forward march. Color guard dismissed, audience at ease.
Thank you, Silvana. It's beautiful. Okay, next we have the reading of Resolution 2606 in support of the Illinois America 250 commemoration. It was originally brought up by Therese Huffensberger, but we're going to have Kim Muir read it. So,
Okay, so resolution number 2606, I'm speaking too loud, I think. A resolution of the Village of Campton Hills in support of the Illinois American 250 commemoration, whereas the United States of America will commemorate its 250th anniversary on July 4th, 2026, marking a historic milestone in the nation's history, and whereas on July 4th, 1776, the Second Continental Congress formally adopted the Declaration of Independence, asserting the American colonies' freedom from British rule and laying the foundation for principles of democracy and self-governance, and whereas the U.S. Semi-Quincentennial Commission, known as the American 250 Commission, American250.org, was established by Congress in 2016 to plan and orchestrate the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, aiming to engage all Americans in commemorating this historic event through educational initiatives. Whereas the Illinois America 250 Commission, IL250.org, was established to develop, encourage, and execute an inclusive commemoration and observance of the founding of the United States of America and Illinois' imperative role in the nation's history. And whereas the Illinois American 250 Commission encourages communities, libraries, schools, local governments, historical societies, cultural institutions, and individuals of all ages to develop inclusive commemorations that reflect on Illinois' role in the nation's history and development, and whereas recognizing and supporting the Illinois 250 Commission will help ensure a meaning and educational commemoration for all residents and future generation, and whereas the commemoration provides an opportunity to reflect on America's historical significance, honor the achievements of its people, and inspire civic engagement, and whereas the Village of Campton Hills hereby formally supports the Illinois America 250 Commission and its mission to commemorate our nation's 250th anniversary. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the President of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Campton Hills expresses its support for the Illinois America 250 Commission and encourages all Illinois communities to organize and participate in local events leading up to and culminating on July 4th, 2026, to celebrate America's 250th anniversary.
Thank you, Kim. Good work. All right. Any other public comments for this evening? Tracy?
Patsy Smith.
Okay. Bring up the mic a little bit, Patsy, so we can,
What do you want me to do with it?
there you go.
Is it
Perfect.
on? Yeah.
Perfect.
A couple of things that I just wanted to comment on was, for the public, I had already sent an email to the village board regarding my concerns related to the organizational chart. And in that, I cautioned them to, about the board restricting the powers of the village president. Those are defined by state statute. And there are also other positions, especially the clerk and the treasurer, that have duties defined by law. Therefore, I'm just throwing up a warning that you need to be aware of that and consider that in your any organizational chart you pass. The other thing that I think it really requires a legal definition is by law, it says the village president is the CEO of the village. And so what does that mean? You know, somebody ought to describe that, because I was always told as village president that I was ultimately responsible for everything, which means I had oversight of every employee to do and to uphold all the laws. So I don't know whether, you know, if you guys have a difference of opinion, but I would certainly get an understanding of what that definition means and what it's meant in the state statutes before you pass your organizational chart. The other thing is, I know that I'm on the agenda to be considered as the really an interim treasurer to help fix some of these issues that have arisen through the audit. And I would appreciate your support. I think I'm uniquely qualified to help see you through this stint to get things righted. You have a very difficult 3 months ahead of you. You've got a budget you need to pass. You've got all the bank recs need to be done and all the numbers checked, because you can't possibly do, well, you can actually. I think you're going to be stuck looking at zero-based, you know, budgeting, and you're not going to be able to refer to your last year numbers because you can't rely on any accuracy. So anyway, I think I'm in a position where I know what needs to be done. I know the players. I think we can treat it a lot like we did at the early days of the village, where we had a lot of concerned citizens that were willing to step up to the plate, work together, solve a problem, come up with policies. We are so fortunate in this community to have so many well-educated people willing to serve. And I think it's time to get back to using those resources, because it certainly did us well for a very long time. Thank you.
Thank you, Patsy. Well said.
Madam President, may I be recognized prior
Yes,
to the
you
consent
certainly
agenda?
may.
Thank you. I have a statement or a screed here that I've been writing since a while ago. Bear with me if you would, please. All right, so here we sit, February 3rd, 2026. I was appointed a trustee of this village at incorporation by the court. I felt I'd done my job. I was done. I said I was done. I said I wasn't going to run again last time. I said, let other people get at it. A number of people in this room, scouts excluded, asked me to stay. They promised they would vote for me. Why? I ran as an independent. There was a little bit of a schism at that point. So to be what I felt was a fair, I didn't run with either slate, if you want to call them slates. However, everybody's campaign sign was in my right-of-way on either side of my property. I'm certain I received votes from various factions. I've been told I did. I tried to be open to various ideas, philosophies, et cetera. I'm the Romulan neutral zone, to use the Star Trek analogy. But maybe I shouldn't have run. Maybe I'm getting stale. I didn't realize that the payroll was removed from the warrant. Don't know why. When I was doing signatures of the checks, when we were still doing wet signatures, I would go through them. I would check the warrant like I'd always done. But we don't sign payroll checks. Being a moderate is usually boring. My whole life I've had that until you call in your chits. Most often, both or all sides of any issue have valid points. Seldom is one right and the other wrong. We have always been shades of gray. There are a few things that are black and white, absolutely. Sometimes all sides can be wrong. Good example of what got a lot of folks invested in coming out here was the zoning ordinance that we were working on. We had conflicting legal opinions. Again, both could be right, both could be wrong. The truth is somewhere in between. It was or wasn't passed correctly. I heard. I said, you know what? Just to make sure, pass it again. If you think it was passed properly, it shouldn't hurt you to pass it again. And if you think it wasn't passed properly, this should assure you that it is. In the end of the day, about 99% of the document is the same as it was. So it was more about process than it was about substance. Here's what I know. We all have a passion and a commitment to see this village thrive. As I alluded to before, there are seldom simple solutions. There's that saying that simple solutions are neither. Even those that appear to be so on the surface oftentimes aren't. So we thrive on compromise. That's our sphere. And my definition, as you've heard me say before, is compromise is either everybody's equally happy or everybody's equally PO'd. Current topics. As we just went through at our previous, at the Committee of the Whole, actually that was the Joint Committee with Finance, would be not an issue if our audit did not show there's this $400,000 gap that none of us were really attuned to as an overspend. If the treasurer has fully performed his duties, that's an option. This is on us, all of us. That would be the president, the board, the administrator. We collectively asked for a course correction back in 2024. Individually, as a group, we said, this is not sustainable. I had that reaction just a moment ago when there's still revenue shown in with parentheses on it on our document. We've been complaining about that since then. At the time we decided, you know what, we're in the middle of the audit, we're getting ready for the budget, we'll take care of it after that. Well, that was a year ago from now, or 11 months ago from now. Madam President, you are too nice of a person. You are the largest-hearted, most sincere, wonderful person I know. But we needed to make a change from the treasurer back then. We didn't have a venue to push the president, because the president can do what the president wants. We advise and consent. That's our job. We can suggest, that's part of advice. We can't compel. However, we did make a clear statement to initiate a change, and we directed the administrator to get a firm to do the treasurer job. After years of having good, bad, and indifferent treasurers, it's not sustainable. The president has vetoed that. And in the veto message, I find 5 points. I agree with 2 of those points. I can pick nits with one of those points. I don't agree with the other 2. So should I override the veto? It's the will of the board. I think we should, a clear message, override the veto. Because we decided as a group, right or wrong, that this is what we want to do. Points could have been made earlier, and maybe we would have a different product that we'd be looking at for an agreement, and this wouldn't be necessary. I'm suggesting we compromise. This still doesn't get us a treasurer. The firm doesn't have a person to appoint or to offer as treasurer at this time. We need one now. I think Patsy is a good compromise for that in this time frame. Treasurer does not have to be a CPA. In fact, we've had CPAs, again, good and bad. Government accounting is its own animal. If you've come from the private side on CPAs, you may have been aware of it, you may not have been aware of it. The ones that have struggled the most are the ones that are tax auditors, tax return, tax preparers, that kind of accounting, because they're focused on corporate business, that private sector thing. We're similar, but we're not the same. There's some big differences. We still don't have our act together. I would suggest that, and I'll get to my request here in a few moments, I would suggest that the two folks we have working for us work with Patsy to get all of the answers we're needing so that when we are here next month, the month after, needing to pass a budget, we're comfortable with the numbers that are presented to us. Mike O'Dwyer is a great choice for finance chair. Full disclosure, I asked Mike if he would want to be treasurer 3 weeks ago. He said, kind of busy. I'm hearing what you're saying. I liked when I was on finance committee. I would like to remind the folks that don't know, and if the folks that are newer don't realize, as alluded to, our finance committee has always been a working committee. They're not just policy wonks. They have been a working committee. They need the information on the bank statements to do their work. There was never a problem with giving them bank statements for 16 years. We trusted them with the knowledge because we wanted them to understand we valued them, that we appreciated their dedication to get us revenue projections and a draft on a budget. Mike will agree to manage the funds and deposits on behalf of the president. We had some concern with, as noted in the management letter, that there was no separation between fund movement and check writing. Segregation of duties. It is wrong to give the authority to anyone who writes checks. I believe we need a forensic audit. I think we're all in agreement on that. We talked about potentially Sikich doing that because the last engagement we had with Sikich was for HR-related issues 8 or 9 years ago. Shame on us for not having changed auditors. Lauterbach's been our auditor for 10 years. Again, that's on us, that's on staff, that's on treasurer to say, oh, you're now 6 years with the same auditor, you're 7 years with the same auditor, you're 8 years with the same auditor. We had a CPA firm for the first 2 years because we needed it and it was easy. Then we went to TKO for 5 years, I believe. Might have been 6, no, I think it was 5, maybe it was 4. And then we switched over to Lauterbach and we just kind of got lazy. COVID hit at that point, so that might be something. I'm not making excuses, folks in the audience. I'm just saying that might have been part of the effect. I'll disagree with Patsy's statement, former President Smith's statement on the org chart. I think it was a good org chart. It's a really excellent document as originally presented. I'm a nerd. I like different weights of lines and colors and dashes, and I can follow along with that stuff. We talked about it. I understand for a public-facing document, it could be confusing. The one we're looking at right now, I think, is clear. It has removed presidential appointments for what we're talking about. It's basically showing lines of direction. It does have the potential temporary line from the clerk to the admin if they're deputy clerk. I think we could remove the line itself because the notes in the footnotes that clarifies that, because that may not be an occurrence. The clerk, as rightly noted, has the opportunity to appoint a deputy clerk on their own volition and use that deputy clerk as necessary. If it's a concern, as some have expressed, that we are, by adopting the organization chart, somehow changing our form of government, I would be pleased to ask for a opinion from separate counsel to compare against current counsel if that is correct. So what my proposal is, and then I have a closing statement. What my proposal is, and Madam Chair, I will pull the warrant from the agenda, item 6C. I will pull from the consent agenda, item I. And I will ask consideration of my fellow trustees the following. That we adopt action item 8A and override the veto. That we agree to item 8B, appoint Mike O'Dwyer to the Finance Committee. 8C, appointing Mike O'Dwyer as the chair of said Finance Committee, with the understanding that the Finance Committee will again get all bank statements. If we need to redact the account number because we're afraid they may fall into, we can do that. They don't need the account numbers, they just need the bank statements. I would move, when the time comes, item 8D, that the expiration be April 30th, 2026, with this caveat. We actually can't appoint a treasurer with an expiration date. It's still the president's prerogative. However, Patsy has promised me she will not be in that position come May 1st. If there is not an agreement we can come to on a new treasurer, yes, we're kicking this down the can for a couple months here, but we need to. I think in this time frame we can figure that out. And finally, I move that we would adopt 8E, the organization chart, and the ordinance 8F, adopting the organization chart with the change I suggested on moving the solid line from the clerk to the admin position, keeping the notation exactly as it is. To make sure I caught everything here. And then we can have I'm good to have a discussion on the agenda setting. All right. Glad the scouts are here. I've got a little tidbit for you. It has been a long time that since I've gotten on my soapbox. It's a long time since I felt the need to get on my soapbox to be demonstrative. It is counter to my desire to just try to work silently and be collaborative and talk to folks and get that. There's a reason I'm doing this. As a scout leader, I never swore in front of the troop unless I needed to. And when Mr. Millett dropped the F-bomb, the pins dropped in the room or at the campsite because everybody knew he was pissed. I'm dropping the F-bomb on us right now. If we don't do this, I am done. I am done caring. I am not going to resign. I will still come to these meetings. I will fulfill my term, but I will not engage. I will just show up for the meetings. I will listen. I will vote, and then I will go home. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mike. Just want to add a few words. I totally agree with you with the appointment of Michael O'Dwyer, as it was recommended by our John Olson, who has served on Finance Committee for how many years, John? A lot. So I totally agree with that. And however, I don't agree with changing an organizational chart in the middle of a term. Our residents vote. These are all elected positions up here, sitting up here. And they have no idea we're doing this, and it should have gone to referendum. And if that isn't required, I don't think anything should be changed until the next election, which isn't really that far off. So I totally disagree with that. Other than that, thank you, Mike, for all your comments. I appreciate it. Okay, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Mike removed 6C and 6I. Anybody else? Kim?
Yeah, 6F.
6F. Anybody else? Okay, motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of 6C, 6F, and 6I.
I so move.
Moved by Mike, second by Therese. Okay, roll call.
Was that Therese or Kim that seconded?
Either one. That you can say
Yeah.
Therese.
Okay. Trustee Millet?
Aye.
Trustee Hassenberger?
Aye.
Trustee Benetti?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Burson? Aye. Trustee Muir?
Aye.
Okay. All right, 6C, Mike.
I move to approve warrant 2619.
Okay, a second.
Well, I'll second for discussion if
For
we might.
discussion.
I've got something on that warrant that I'd like to bring up too.
I have a discussion too.
Okay, second, go ahead and discuss.
The payroll is missing from the warrant.
Okay, got it. Same? Okay.
Yes, but I've got something else. I'm just curious why a new laptop was bought for our interim finance folks. There is a, almost, it's just under 2,000, so it didn't wind up on the invoice warrants. But it's definitely on the warrant, and I'm just curious why, because there was obviously treasurer equipment there. And if that equipment isn't present, I want to know where it's at.
The equipment was present, but the keyboard didn't work on the laptop that was in the treasurer's office. So we had an issue with that. And if we're down a laptop for the code officer, so if at some point we don't have two people working in that department, both needing a laptop, it'll be repurposed to that department that has a very old one that doesn't work. That they have to come into the office and transfer all their notes in the office. So,
Okay, I understand, but also begs to differ. How was the treasurer doing their work with a broken keyboard? But just
No,
my.
Russ, do you want to answer that, or no? No? You have to come up to the mic, I'm sorry, yeah. Stretch your legs.
He had the laptop he left in here, he never took it anywhere. He had an external keyboard that he could use. And under the circumstances, with us filling in, again, we said we would do this, but we've got commitments outside here, and there may come a time where you have to do it remotely. So it just made more sense. Plus, that laptop, quite honestly, was still operating under Windows 10, okay, which is a huge security, yeah. So,
There's the answer. Yeah. All right, thank you, Russ. Janet?
I guess I'm confused about the notation, because the person that was contemplated at one time as a treasurer candidate was Russ Surqua. And at that time, we authorized the temporary employment of Russ Surqua for purposes of becoming familiar and training for that job. And Mr. Surqua has since decided that he's not interested in that job. And we had a discussion, the board already had a discussion with advice from council about the code violation of having Ms. Surqua employed at the same time. So this notation is for a treasurer laptop for J. Surqua, not R. Surqua. I would also note that Windows 10 or not, if it works with an external keyboard, it works with an external keyboard. If some remote work is needed, and I mean, it's my understanding that everyone's here close by, but if remote work is needed, I think the keyboard could maybe have gone with it. I'm not sure why we spent $2,000 on this. but for the Windows 10 issue. Like, it's the only, like I can look past the names and the keyboard silliness and everything, only for the Windows 10 issue.
All right. Any other comments on 6C? Oh, Therese, go ahead.
So one of the items on the warrant is for MGT America Consulting. And if you look at the invoice is for work done in August of 2025. Is that? That's accurate. That is accurate. It just was missed, or?
Yes, it somehow got misplaced and didn't get put on in August, September, October, November, December. They found the error, and it had to be put
Okay.
forth. I did check, and everybody's story matched, and MGT said that we are in arrears on that, and it was work on the comp plan primarily. Only a
Okay.
few hours that we've already been reimbursed by the escrow. on.
Okay. And then the other item that I've got to bring up here is, last meeting, I talked about the escrow and, making sure that that was going to be up and running this time or sometime soon. It's my understanding now on the escrow, on the warrant, that the items that are highlighted in yellow are going to be held off and paid for out of the escrow account. Is that correct?
Yeah, Russ, that was the intention of showing that, because we haven't received the dollars reimbursement on 2 weeks ago's escrow item of a bill to Shodine. When we get that money, we'll be able to pay those.
So what we're approving tonight will be, we're approving payment, and
Yep.
it affects 3 different entries. So it's H.R. Green, Klein Thorpe and Jenkins, and Paddock Publications. So we're agreeing to pay less that highlighted yellow amount, and those amounts will get
You're-
paid once the escrow is funded.
Yeah, you're approving it, but you're directing it to make sure we've got the payment from Shodine first,
And we're going to write it out of the escrow account,
the checking account.
the checking account. Okay, then I'm good with that.
Okay. All right, we're all good with 6C? You want to do roll call?
Trustee Millet?
Aye.
Trustee Muir?
Aye.
Trustee Benetti?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Burson?
Aye.
Trustee Hassenberger?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. We'll go to 6F. Motion to approve Resolution 26-07, authorizing the execution of a reciprocal agreement regarding the exchange of information between the Village of Campton Hills, Kane County, Illinois, and Illinois Department of Revenue.
I'll move, so move.
Okay,
For
Janet
discussion.
moves.
Kim did.
Kim
Kim?
did.
Okay,
Oh.
Kim. And then second. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, that was Nick? Yes. All righty. All right, discussion?
Give an overview by Carmen.
All right.
Well, I'm just going to point out something. I'm pretty
Oh.
certain that this resolution, 2607, is something that we probably do every year, right? Or regularly, right? No?
So the Illinois Department of Revenue requires reciprocal agreements for sharing information back and forth. In this instance, it's the information's coming from the Department of Revenue to the village. The board approved reciprocal agreements related to sales and use tax back in, I think, 2024. And maybe, it may have been 25. Every year, you have to, the village has to send a recertification of who the individuals who are eligible to receive the information are, and sign off that it's being used for the right information. I believe what happened this year is that the village tried to include that it has a new telecommunications tax on the recertification form, and IDOR indicated, well, we actually need a new reciprocal agreement to cover that. So that's what this is for. The other agreements will stay in place, and every year when the village recertifies, assuming there are no other taxes that are instituted that would require agreements, which I don't think there would be, you'll just do the recertification every year.
Okay. I just needed some clarification on that. And then, but if I might, on the hard copy that's out in public, can we adjust the trustees' names, please? They're from the prior board.
The clerk can note that in the final copy. Mhm.
Okay, anybody else? Janet, go ahead.
There are some concerns in the public as people have started to see streaming taxes on their bills. And I believe that some of the comments that I have encountered may be from people who either think they don't live in the village, but they do, or would like to think that they don't live in the village and they know they do. So I think that's out there, but the more important issue, I think, is for us to be clear with people about where we get information for this purpose, because I hope that our Attorney Forte can confirm for us, but my understanding is we don't play any part in the gathering of this information. We don't edit it. We get a list from the Illinois Department of Revenue, and we send it off to Netflix or Hulu or whoever, right? And so we don't know if it's 100% accurate. Almost nothing is 100%. But if there are errors on it, those are errors that are passed on to us from Illinois Department of Revenue. Is that correct?
Right, so with regard to the sales and use tax revenue sharing or information sharing, that is, for the village's purposes, typically used for revenue projections. The village doesn't have a significant amount of commercial operations within the village, but it can give an understanding, for instance, when you are considering the places of eating tax, knowing what particular businesses, what type of revenue they're bringing in. And IDOR will give that information out only to registered municipalities.
We didn't pass that one.
And right. For the telecommunications tax, again, it's for revenue projections. So the village is, for that particular tax, was required to report it to the Department of Revenue. They're the one that collects it from the agencies or the carriers that actually provide the service. So the village doesn't provide any information as to correct. So the department, likely upon the time of incorporation, understood what the municipal boundaries were, what parcels were included within the municipality. If the village annexes or disconnects a parcel from its municipal boundaries, we're required to provide that information to IDOR. So they would add or subtract a parcel. More likely than not, that information is going to be fairly correct with IDOR. Now, other agencies such as NICOR, ComEd, they maintain their customer lists based on the municipalities, that they serve. We did identify that there was an error at least with regard to one parcel that disconnected quite some time ago. The village did provide information that parcel had disconnected to the utility. They did not remove it from their list. So when we saw this with the recent annexations, we have to send notifications to many different entities and to confirm that new parcels have been added to the village. So like I said, this agreement and this information is really just being used for revenue projections. It's not, the village is not sending anything to IDOR under the telecom tax or through this agreement. It just essentially allows IDOR to flip a switch so that the individuals here who have access to the portal for the village can see this information now, on their laptop, on their computer.
Wasn't
With
part of this
passwords,
process, though, also related to the streaming tax? Weren't we getting information from IDOR for that purpose as well?
We did ask if that was something that they'd be able to provide some information on, but because they don't maintain an understanding of what vendors are operating or providing service within the village, because it's not.
Oh, not on the vendor side, on the customer side.
It wasn't anything that they would be able to provide us information on, other than these are the parcels that are, these are the residences, let's say, that are within the village. So with regard to the streaming tax, and with assistance from the village clerk, we, the village, sent out notifications to various companies, various streaming companies, utilize a list that other municipalities have used that adopted similar types of taxes and sent a copy of the ordinance. It's a self-administered ordinance in-house. Here's the ordinance. Let us know if there's any additional person that we need to send this to at your organization. And many, my understanding, did respond and say, yes, as of X date, we will begin to collect it. Let's confirm where we send the payments to.
Yep.
And then on that vendor side, or that servicer side, let's say, they handle that all in-house,
Yep.
likely through their tax compliance department. Whether or
Exactly,
not
yes.
they decide to pass that tax on to an individual and you see it as a line item on your bill, they could, they don't have to. They could eat it,
Some do.
use it as, just put it into overhead. But that's up to the individual vendor.
Yeah, and just so the public and the trustees know, we thought there was like 30 to 40 vendors, talking to Metro West. When we finished doing it, Tracy, correct me, was it 64 or 70 vendors?
It was over
separate?
70.
It was 70 plus vendors. And then we had to send them a list of addresses that were in the village. And there was some, about 4 or 5 that we've eliminated, both either for ComEd or NICOR, and some of the people that protested that they're not in the village. And, you know, it was an old ComEd list, and that we had to, and people disconnected over the years, so we had to make sure we allowed them to be removed from paying any of these user fee taxes. So that's an ongoing process. So if somebody out there thinks they're in unincorporated Kane County, they reach out to us. We connect to the vendor list that's for the streaming and/or NICOR and ComEd. We've had about 5, I think, to this date, out of the literally 1,000-plus addresses. So we're doing pretty well on that.
Well, it should be about 3,500 addresses, but,
It's down, yeah, it's down. Yeah, it's about 3,500, you're right.
but, so guidance for the public then sounds like would be that if you feel that the tax is being imposed on you incorrectly, would probably be more expeditious to contact us than to try and slug it out with each of these
Yes, and
companies.
then we send a letter, email to the different vendors and correct it.
And can we put that information out in community counts in some way in case people are concerned that they're being charged incorrectly?
The problem with community, the problem with community counts, it's only goes to the people that have signed up, and the ones that have signed up
Well,
are
we
in
know.
the village.
18% of the
Yeah, so unincorporated
Residents
Kane
in our
County won't
village.
get the message. But we could put it on our
Well, but community
website.
counts is supposed to be echoed on our website too.
Yeah,
so.
so we can, we'll work on that.
Okay. Frank, go ahead.
So to that point, there's shared zip codes with Campton Hills and St. Charles. So I think the complaints are coming from St. Charles residents who share the zip code. I did a little research on it based on some posts, and it does advise the customers to contact the streaming service, so I think it would be good if they contact us, because most streaming services bill by zip code, not by address. So if you feel like you're outside of a jurisdiction, that you have to call them and they have to look up the exact address, which is probably off your list. But I would suggest that we share the information with St. Charles and say, hey, if you have a community website or something, you may want to post this and make residents of St. Charles. I think it's the courteous thing to do. It also allows them not to throw rocks at us, you know, and that they understand. So I think from a streaming service perspective, I think we need to get the word out, and it was probably a good idea that we should probably done that right off the bat, that if you have a shared zip code, be aware that this is happening, so.
Yeah, I'll reach out both to Elburn and St. Charles, because that's where, and
Yeah, we
and
also
there could be,
there's 4, there's 4 zip codes. Wasco's the only one that we were fully
yeah,
subsumed.
so even, I might even have to contact Elgin. All right, I'll do
Okay,
that.
thank you, Frank. Okay, are we ready to vote? Roll call?
Trustee Muir?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Benetti?
Aye.
Trustee Burson?
Aye.
Trustee Hassenberger?
Aye.
Trustee Millet?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. We'll go on to 6I, motion to approve Resolution 26-08, appointing Russ Serqua as the budget officer for the village.
So moved.
Moved by Mike, second.
Second.
Second by Frank. Discussion? Janet?
I really feel that we need to address the issue of the joint employment. We have an anti-nepotism statute. It's not possible for both Russ and Julie to work for the village. We've been through this. We reluctantly agreed because Julie had been hired without consultation with us at all. And under the, extreme circumstances that we seem to be presented with on the exit of Tim, we agreed to allow her to remain through the month of January. It's now February. So I'm a little bit confused about whether we're continuing to employ both Russ and Julie, because we never authorized the employment of Julie. And again, since the proposition was that Russ was going to be treasurer, and there is already a finance clerk, I'm not sure if he's not going to be treasurer what the function would be. And I'm not clear what how the budget officer thing would work. And all things considered, that's not what's on the agenda here, but I think, I would have rather seen Patsy as budget officer. But I feel there's just a number of questions here about Russ's appearance on this agenda at all.
Therese, go ahead.
So there was just one, before I address other things, there's the wrong date on the resolution. It says 2023, so we want to fix that. And the other issue, I guess, we had agreed was it the last meeting or the prior meeting, that as long as Julie was not reporting to her husband, that we were okay with her working, and we did make that and we absolutely did. We did this in open session. We made the concession. We said she could stay as long as they're not being reported, as long as she's not reporting to her own husband. And right now, I believe the plan that Patsy mentioned earlier was to have both of them report to Patsy. So there should be no issues there whatsoever, and it should be a very easy thing for us to waive under the circumstances. They're both doing an incredible job. They've come in, they're cleaning things up. They're both working very hard. I have heard no legitimate complaints about anything that they're doing, and so I don't see why we would change now. We did agree to this in open session.
Thank you, Therese. Anything, Nick?
Yeah, this is jumping ahead a little bit, but we're looking at the org chart tonight and the action items, and budget officer is not listed on our new all-inclusive organizational chart. So I just was concerned that long-term, where the budget officer fits in to our staffing. It's not listed on there, and prior to this, I didn't know that we had a need for that. So I just needed some explanation. I mean, the role that they have right now is kind of a specific role, and it's kind of evolved. And now it seems like it's evolving even more. So I was hoping to get some explanation.
Mike, go ahead.
My thoughts, thanks for bringing those up, Trustee Boatner. My thought on that is and when we go talk to the org chart, I'll hopefully remember to address this too. There's like in the military, you have a rank, you have an MOS. Some MOSs require certain ranks, some don't. And you have duty assignments. So this to me is a duty assignment. Any of us could be you could be the budget officer. I could be the budget officer. We probably wouldn't be a good idea to do councils, but so maybe that's why it's not one of those things that appears on the org chart, but most places I'm familiar with, it's either the treasurer or finance director, and oftentimes that's the same person, or sometimes it's the administrator or the manager, which we've had throughout the years, various people. We've had the head of the finance committee was budget officer at one point. So I think it's a title we can bestow and do, and there are duties in the Budget Control Act that dictate when, mostly when, that they have to do and what's required of them. So, yeah, maybe it's one of those things we could put in as an asterisk for, other duties as assigned on an org chart. I mean, you could also have an animal control officer that necessarily is not a sworn police officer. That, there's certain things that we can look towards. But good point. Was so focused on other stuff, you're right, it doesn't show up on the org chart.
I'll have Nick answer, and then we'll go to you, Therese. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
thank you. Quick follow-up for Mike. So, if not to be concerned about the budget officer title, then could we define what Russ's role is within the village, if he has a specific job title, and where he falls into the staffing? Because appointing him as budget officer, it implies to me that this is a longer-term role. And I would like to have it defined on where he ultimately falls into the staffing.
Yeah, that's a good idea, you're right.
Well, I don't have the answer to that currently, but, well, I don't. Janet, you can laugh all you want, but it's ignorant. But go ahead, Therese.
So, and I'm not sure if this helps or not, but, it is part of our code, so we require a budget officer.
Absolutely.
So it's section 3-1-1, and then our code mimics the Illinois code, so it's a position that is statutory.
Yeah, and they're extremely well qualified. They've done an amazing job, and I'll talk about that a little bit in action items. And I personally, I think they've been a gift to our village. They've really done an amazing job, and they've cleaned everything up. All the papers that, in the office that were there for, I don't know how many years, they've put everything together, filed everything, get everything done, everything's up to date.
Madam Chair, if I
So,
may?
Yeah.
Let me think how I do this. No, I would like to withdraw my motion, and I would like to ask that item 6I be moved to action item 8K.
8K.
So then we can have the discussion about the other things too, and we can try to maybe get a resolution and wrap it all up together.
Do I have a second on
I'll
that
second.
motion? Second, Frank? All right, discussion, any other discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Millet?
Aye.
Trustee Benetti?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Burson?
Aye.
Trustee Hatzenberger?
Aye.
Trustee Meir?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. All right, we'll go on to 7, police, our police report. Chief Levand?
Since you have a lot of other discussions, I'll keep just 2 brief points. I'll keep my report until next meeting. January 29th, came out again that Campton Hills for 2026 was Illinois' safest city. So I've sort of lost track now. I know it's at least 4 or 5 years in a row, and then it was before that. So that's kudos to the staff, all the officers, all their hard work, and the community we live in, because it's a great community. So a lot of the stuff they police themselves, so which is an excellent thing as a police department. Second thing, if you're not aware yet, annexation agreement that we had approximately a week ago, the police department woke up one day, looked at the computer, and we are now policing Kesslinger Road. We are part of Bunker, when the bypass opens, that will obviously go to us. Everything in our annexation that was there is now our responsibility to police. So Kesslinger Road is a horrible road, a lot of speeding, a lot of accidents, so we're doing the calls that goes there. So even though the development isn't in per se, or what is to come in the future, we are now responsible for the policing and all our annexation, so, just so you know.
And, Madam President, if I could, the next meeting, the chief is going to have his goals achieved and projected for next year as a preparatory to the budget, and the other departments' goals that they achieved, and the projection will be on the agenda, if that's accepted to everybody, to kind of preface to what was accomplished, what's targeted, so a first step in the budget. So that'll be on the 17th for the entire, but the chief's going to have the lion's share of the slideshow.
All right, Mike, go ahead.
Chief, do we still have portable scales?
No, you remember we decided actually to pass on those.
We did, didn't we?
So we did. But in the long run, it was a good decision, so.
The bridge is posted though, right? You can pull somebody on suspicion, and can we take them to a scale?
100%. So
Okay.
we were spoiled for a while that downtown Elburn Co-op had the full draft scale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay.
They have pulled that, going out of business. So it's just a little farther. We have to go down on 38.
quarry?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
And they're super pro-friendly when it comes to it, so it's just a little more of a distance.
Okay, thanks.
All right, moving on to action.
Madam President, I move item 8A.
All right, consideration of village president's veto and written objections to resolution number R26-03. I would like to make a comment on this for the public.
Need a second.
I need a second, I'm sorry.
I'll second.
Second by Janet.
Just for clarification, is the motion to override the veto?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I do still want to make a comment. Russ and Julie are doing a phenomenal job. They're very well qualified. They're very competent. The only thing Russ needs is a little bit of training, 2 weeks of training maybe in Cassell. And I just don't understand why in the world we want to hire Lauterbach and Amen. First of all, it's not a segregation of duties, for one, and we're going to hire them for $7,000 a month. And, I mean, how long are you anticipating we're going to keep them for $7,000 a month? I mean, it's to me, it's just bad for fiscal responsibility. I think it looks bad on the village. And I'm very frugal in my spending, and I spend anything that I can truly afford and not more than that. And I just think we're throwing money away with $7,000 a month. So that's my comment. And but anybody else? Mike, go.
Don't disagree with the comment, don't disagree with the sentiment. In fact, in looking at your veto issued to the board January 6th, I alluded to earlier, I agree with item 2, in that the audit's not done, so I don't think Lauterbach and Amen should start.
Exactly.
Fortunately, the auditor that was here did explain that they have a two-business model corporation company, which is, or two services, which I need to hear a little bit more about. We had an email earlier, basically them telling us, we have two different things. That's fine, I need to see. I would like to see who we're talking about that's on the audit side. I'd like to see who we're talking about that's on the finance side. So I concur with that part of it. I do not fully concur with the expenditure authorization, in that we were spending $10,000 a month for a treasurer that got us into this part. And we all, again, were part of that. And 7,000 is less than 10,000. And if we get, here's Mike math, if we get half the work out of Lauterbach in-house staff that we were getting from the previous treasurer, I think that puts us like over 30% to the good. So I disagree with that. I fully acknowledge your point. That's the one I'm iffy about because we are talking about perception. We easily could have two different companies, right? And I think that's where I want us to be come May. Come May, Lauterbach is providing our financial services. We will agree on a new treasurer because we'll need one by then. Lauterbach needs to give us a person, because the treasurer has to be a person, not the corporation, that we can interview and discuss, and then recommend, have President Wodnicki recommend and us agree on. And at that point, Sikich is our auditor, so then that goes away. The audit independence and self-review risk, the overlap, I think I concur with that, and so that's why I think I'm in an odd spot. I agree. I wish we would have thought about these and had those brought, because we could have had by tonight a better picture of the personnel that Lauterbach would be suggesting that the president would suggest for being a treasurer, and that we would have a better idea of what we're getting them internally, because the agreement is precipitated on us doing our personnel feeding data into Cassell. So we had a sidebar at some point that it could be more than $7,000. And I would say this: if we pay Lauterbach and Amman $10,000 and we get everything we need out of them, we're still in a better place than we were before. I don't think I want to be in that place, because I don't want to spend $120,000 a year on treasury services. On the other hand, when we historically look at where we have been, the financial management function writ large of our village, that's not that number, it's bigger than that, because you have to look at what we've paid treasurers in the past, what we've paid our payroll clerk in the past, what we spend on, which we still be spending on payroll, and what we've spent on part-time staff. I'm sure there are years that's in 2026 dollars, that's what we've been paying. So I'm not that concerned about it. So as I said earlier, my purpose in making this motion is to re-emphasize our will as a board that we need to make a change in our financial management and get a professional, proven, steady client, a provider of services for us, just as we've done for engineering services. We don't have an engineer on staff because we don't have enough work to keep an engineer on staff. We have contracted for professional services, a variety of other things, for planning services, for we contract for building and zoning, parts of it, or for building permits we contract. So this is not unheard of. And as I alluded to earlier, we need this couple-month period here to get ready to make this change fully. So I want to assert that, yes, we are planning on making this change. We're redirecting you as president. This is our will, but acknowledging that we need a couple months to get the details worked out.
Therese, go ahead.
Okay, so just to be clear, Mike, what you had talked about was an override and a table of this, correct?
Actually, at this point, we're just overriding. I think we should table enforcement of it, yes, or not enforcement. Thank you, implementation, yes, table. So if you got an idea of time, I'd be open to that as a friendly amendment.
Well, the reason that I was much more in favor of just the straight veto is that there's a lot wrong with this contract. We are paying $7,000 for 10 to 12 hours of primarily supervisory reviewing work. So they will review bank and cash controls, but they won't perform that duty. They will review accounts payable, and there'll be an advisory support for Cassell. They will review payroll. They will be an oversight for payroll, but they will not do the day-to-day payroll processing. They will now, they will do some financial reporting and some audit support. And one of the things that they say that this contract covers is treasurer annual report. So if we have a new treasurer, because this company is not allowed to be our treasurer, I don't know why the treasurer would want to accept someone else's reports. I think they'd want to do their own. So some of these functions, once we have some time for Patsy to get her, to get in and get these things kind of straightened out, I think it would make a lot more sense to take a look at the contract and actually make it work for what our needs are. We don't really need anyone seeing all these things. What we need is, what we had talked about initially was a separation of duties. And so we can take, if there's an area, like we have said, that because we're a small village, that we have a harder time making it, having a separation because we don't have enough people, then they can perform one of those functions. But at $10,000 or at $7,000 a month for that 10 to 12 hours of mostly supervisory work, I don't think this is the right contract. I am absolutely in agreement that if we want to go the route of getting another company and like taking a look at the contract and making it make more sense, we should do that. But right now, we still have to have, in addition to that $7,000 a month, we still have to have a daily accounting clerk doing the transactions. We still have to have someone doing payroll. We still have to have someone doing reconciliations. They don't do those. They supervise those as well. And then, like I said, we'll have a treasurer who's going to want to do their own treasurer reports. They're not going to accept someone else's reports. So I know we had talked about, so my agreement with you and in this whole process would be, I think there was validity to the veto. I think this was a bad contract. It needed to be addressed somehow. And I agree with you. We'll address it by, if you guys want to have the veto go through, but then we are going to agree to table this issue until we've given Patsy time to get through some of the work, potentially talk about a forensic audit of another firm coming in. We'll talk about that. And then we can worry about who we bring on board, and what specific duties they will do, and we give it more thought, and we do it so that we are actually doing a separation of duties and not costing, because right now, to do this other work, once you add that on top of the $84,000, and by the way, we've committed to 2028 with this contract, so we've committed like a $252,000 total for this contract. By the time we add in the actual work and a treasurer, because we need a physical person as a treasurer, we're going to be way over the $120,000 that we were paying to Timothy and getting no work done.
So is your motion to table?
My motion would be to amend his motion. I believe his motion was to,
Who Mike's motion?
Mike's motion was to override the veto, and then I was saying, and then also to table the Lauterbach contract.
Okay.
So for sake of clarity, there was a resolution that was approved. The village president has vetoed that resolution, and it was done properly. It's been reported to the board tonight. There's been a motion and a second to override the veto. That can be voted upon. It can be withdrawn, and if it's voted upon and it's obviously in the positive, the veto is overridden, the resolution stands as it was originally approved. If it is, if the vote fails, then the veto stands and the resolution is it's as if it never occurred. So the agreement, although the agreement has not been executed, the agreement would not have been properly approved by the village board. If there is a veto of the, if the veto goes through, so the motion is withdrawn or the motion override is, fails, there's nothing to table because the agreement's not in place anymore. So, I mean, the issue itself is, it can be discussed by the board at a future time, and I may have stated that wrong. If the veto is effectuated, then there's no issue before the board for action on the agreement. It doesn't officially come back. If the village board brings a resolution at a future time to approve another agreement or the same agreement, that can happen then. But you don't need to table anything tonight. And then one last thing, if the veto is overridden, The resolution stays in its current form as approved, and it would be posted on the village's website just without the village president's signature on the resolution. So it's an effective resolution. The resolution does authorize the president or her designee to sign the agreement, so.
That, sorry, my mind's gone. So then, if we override, then I would, with one other trustee, want a action item on the next agenda that directs staff to renegotiate with the stipulations that we'll give them. We'll have to give direction to staff on what we want. Things we talked about, the 2 lists of people and all that kind of stuff.
So what are they renegotiating? Say
The-
specifically?
After, if it's
Specifically.
overridden, we won't do that.
Yeah, I would work with whoever wants to and get a list of the concerns we have on to perfect the contract.
I'm gonna take trees and then Janet.
Just to clarify, we're talking about just re-looking at the Lauterbach contract? Okay, okay.
Okay.
So there would be no risk if we do this of anyone enforcing that agreement between now and our next meeting and hiring and getting the work started, correct?
Yes?
Okay, then I would be in agreement. I would work with you on that, Mike.
Okay. Janet, you wanna go?
As often is the case, there's some misinformation or some misunderstanding here. There is a treasurer available to be hired and appointed at Lauterbach and Amon, but there is a, unwillingness to do that. So we can have a natural person as a treasurer as soon as we execute this agreement, if that's what we wanted to do. However, if the will of the board was to confirm Patsy Smith as treasurer with a date certain of April 30th, then there is going to be no annual report filed by the treasurer or by Patsy Smith as treasurer anyway. And so the concern about the statement in the contract that the treasurer would be a treasurer report would be provided would be correct, and it would not be a conflict with Patsy Smith. The other thing, I have heard over and over and over again about the unwillingness to pay for oversight. That's actually a large portion of what the job is. Management always gets paid more than worker bees, and worker bees never like it. And they always say, well, why are those guys making so much more money than we are? But once people become management, they realize that it's a lot harder than it looks. And so there's a reason why people get paid more for oversight than they do for field work. So I think for those of us who interacted with both Lauterbach and Sikich, the companies were pretty comparable in how they handled these things, and we did not sense a problem in that regard. The other thing, as it comes to the segregation between the 2 different parts of Lauterbach, I don't feel that that's a valid concern at this point. The audit part of the firm is on the way out. The work is done. They're going to finalize it and turn it over to us imminently. In addition, I can tell you that when we talked to the people at Lauterbach that are on the accounting side of the house, not the audit side of the house, we somewhat naively thought that they might know something about us. And they didn't, which then we realized was a good thing, because they really kind of shouldn't. And other than what they could find publicly available. And both firms, we told both firms, well, if you want to know about us, pretty much most of what you need to know, it's on the website. Go get it. You can read it, and they did, and they came back to us based on that with their proposals. So we pushed them at least once when they asked us some more detailed questions. We said, well, can't you talk to your audit people? I said, no, we can't talk to our audit people. I think that the concern about momentarily employing the same company for both functions is a figment, honestly, because it's there, I believe we are going to have a final audit by the next meeting. Right? So I think we're making something out of nothing in regards to the first point that was on the override. So as Attorney Forte explained, if we override this veto, the resolution is in effect, and the contract is in effect. Now, if there's a majority of trustees that feel that we need to renegotiate part of that contract, then I guess we can, but I haven't heard yet what that part would be, because I don't think that we're looking to renegotiate the $7,000, and I don't think we're looking to beat them up by what will be after the fact at that point over the audit. There's been, intimations up till now that Lauterbach and Heyman was in some way not qualified or not a good company. There's been the suggestion that they were negligent in not pointing out the challenges that we have with reconciliation in this year that is outside the scope of any work that Lauterbach and Heyman is doing. I think we went through that during the Finance Committee. So I'm not sure what we're waiting for. I'm not in favor of the appointment of Patsy Smith as treasurer, but with or without it, we approved this. We approved this because we as a board thought it was something that needed to be done. And the combination of the attempt to override our action and to appoint someone that was going to be divisive on the board for this purpose, I guess I feel a little bit like what Frank said at the beginning when Michael Dwyer was talking. I feel like we've been set up, and I don't like it. That said, I'm in favor of overriding this veto.
Frank, go ahead.
Okay, so I have a couple comments. So if we override the veto, I guess it's a question to Attorney Forte. Can we execute the contract down the road, or do we have to execute it immediately? Like, what if we decide to hold the contract for 30 days and then execute it? Can we do that?
Good idea.
Well, I mean, the resolution authorizes the execution of the contract, of the agreement. But like almost all the resolutions that I prepare for you, I believe it has language that indicates that that you shall have the authority to, let's see, execute and deliver all other instruments and documents to pay all costs necessary to fulfill the village's obligation under the agreement. There are several times where there's an agreement that is attached to a resolution that has been, let's say, 99% negotiated, but there are some minor terms that the village attorney is still reviewing. That would not be material, if they were material change, would not have any significant effect. So certainly if the parties agree, they can make changes to the agreement before it's executed. Once it's executed, the agreement is in place, the termination provisions would apply. So if the vendor, for lack of a better word, is looking to still do business with the village, and maybe the relationship changes a bit based on their scope, maybe the amount that they're charging changes a bit, that would be between the parties. That can be negotiated. And there's nothing in this agreement that would prevent the parties from, halfway through the first year or a few months through the first year, determining that, more hours are needed, less hours are needed. The way I understand these types of services are provided, it's really a menu of services. You can pick and choose what you'd like.
Yeah, and to that point, when we talked to Sickich and we talked to Lauterbach and Heyman, it was an à la carte menu. And I believe what we chose were the duties of a treasurer, and that's what's highlighted in the agreement, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. So we didn't take all of the day-to-day roles, because we felt we could have Russ and whoever do those at a much lower expense, and there was no reason to contract with Lauterbach and Amen for those issues. So
Yes.
it really
specifically,
isn't,
Payroll and bank recs were gonna be
to
with
me,
Russ.
what we're contracting for is a treasurer, or treasurer oversight, treasurer duties, right? And that's in the agreement. So with that said, I never liked being spanked, and I didn't like being spanked tonight in public. And I've said this from day one, going back to last May, that this village needs to run more professionally. And I think the best step and the first step needs to be to hire a professional accounting firm to handle our treasury duties, because I think, as Mr. O'Dwyer clearly pointed out, it hasn't been done well. And it hasn't been done well for a while. So to avoid being spanked again somewhere down the road, you know, there's consequences to when you get spanked, and the consequences come up with a better solution. And I think we need to do that.
Therese, go ahead.
Then I'm going to go back to my argument from before that this will require a budget amendment, because by the time you add the $84,000 plus a clerk at, let's say it's part-time, so half of that, I believe at $40 an hour or $45 an hour, that's a $90-some thousand annual, so cut that in half. So we're adding on top of this another, so 84,000 plus another 40 or 50,000 for this other work to be done. We're over what we put on our budget line for this work. So we can't just approve that here, which was the point that I made before. That's the thing that got us in trouble with this last fiscal year 25, is no one believing that we need to do budget amendments, and it is a thing. The Illinois code gives us the only authority we have to spend is given to us by the Illinois code with the budget that we pass. What you feel spanked about, or whatever it is, what Mr. O'Dwyer was telling us is the truth. We have not been doing things correctly, and I have raised these issues, and I have been dismissed over and over again as I'm a fearmongerer, I'm bringing up the boogeyman, this isn't how Teresa, it's not how it's done in the real world. Well, this is exactly how it's done in the real world, because there are rules that we have to follow, and one of those rules is we have to abide by the budget that we approve. So if we're going to change this out and we're going to add expense to that budget line item, we must address it, and that does require a different procedure than just a simple majority. And so no one wants to address this. Everyone is like, well, we have to do it, we must do it. Sure, we've got to do it the right way. If someone in the fiscal year 25 had done this all along, we'd know exactly what that $401,000 overspend was. Because along the way, we would have been looking at our budget, we would have said, either we don't have the budget or we've got to do an amendment, and guess what? We'd have a paper trail, and we'd know exactly what that $401,000 is. But we have not been doing that. We are not doing that. The village has not been great about doing that, but the other prior administrations, what they had that we don't have is they had someone doing accurate financials. So when they were getting their monthly accurate financials, they could tell, where are we in relation to our budget? So they all worked on, from what I understand, this is the first time we've ever had a budget overage. They've always worked, in fact, I think most of them had even surpluses. Okay, so this is real, and it's something we've got to do. And we can't just say, oh, well, we want this, therefore the cost is worth it. We don't have the authority. That I didn't make this up. The Illinois legislature did, and they put it in a code. And they said this is a procedure we have to follow. So if we want to do this, knowing that all these things this contract does not do, we would still have to hire someone like Julie and or Russ and Patsy. We still would have to hire someone to do some of the internal work. How does that fit into the $116,000 budget that we have in the budget right now, which I'm assuming is what we left in there, which it was Timothy's old salary? So We've got to start behaving like a board, and when someone comes in to tell us the truth, which Mr. O'Dwyer did, it's not a setup. I don't know him. I met him through this process. He's been saying this, from what I understand, though, for years. He's been saying that this village has not been doing things correctly for years. And thank goodness, Mike wanted to reach out to him. Other people wanted to reach out to him. Thank goodness they reached out to him, and thank goodness he agreed to come back after being basically told that he can't do his job and being frustrated because he predicted exactly this, okay? So when he walked in here, that wasn't a setup of any kind. That was a member of our community who cares about this community, who served as a trustee, and who also served on our finance committee, who was saying, I warned you all. I was jumping up and down trying to get your attention and said, you need to start following procedure. Every time I bring up the word procedure, since I've been on this board starting in April, I get looked at, I get sneered at, I get laughed at, and I get told I'm the boogeyman, I am a fearmongerer. Oh, Therese, that's not how it happens. It is how it happens. And this, how much starker could the example be to us than a budget where we went over by $401,000? I don't know how much sharper that lesson could be, but we just got slapped by the behavior of our own board.
Nick, go ahead.
Sure, so a couple comments. This wasn't a rash decision. You know, we've been considering this and started talking about this at the last budget cycle. Really started investigating this probably 6 months ago, and we have come to this conclusion. So we're kind of rediscussing what we've already made a decision on for the last 6, 7, 8 months. My question is, I need to hear the reasoning because I can't wrap my brain around. We're doing this to eliminate having an individual in the treasurer's role. So we're hiring a firm that gives us layers of accountability. They come in with professional processes. They are familiar with government accounting. What is the reason for the delay? Originally, I felt I may have understood it, being that the audit possibly wasn't completed, but if that's going to be done in the next week or two, I don't see any reason to delay and push the Lauterbach and Amon contract out any farther than that. So I just need some explanation on why we would bring any individual, whoever it may be, in for any period of time as a kind of intermittent treasurer. Like what the 30, 60, 90, if there's a timeline on it, just help me understand that. Therese, as far as the dollars and cents go, just to reply back to you, so that $88,000, while it is less than what we were paying Tim, you know, bringing an individual in, I think the other expense that is not a line item on the budget are the unrealized expenses of having to correct errors. Where at the end of the year, we have to fund a forensic audit, where at the end of the year, we have to justify being over budget because our financial reports weren't giving us proper information, or they didn't even exist when they were supposed to. I think it's the accountability and the creating a professional environment so that our finance committee comes in here and gives us a great report, and that we do come in on budget. That's what we're paying for. And $40,000 a year to run payroll and reconcile bank accounts, this is on the village administrator to make sure that those hours stay on track. You know, I mean, we've got a few hours every 2 weeks to process payroll. In what world does it take more than that? Reconciling bank accounts? I mean, in all reality, how much time does that take? But I don't see it as $40,000 a year. And even at that, I still think that we end up being under budget where we are now if you take in all the other expenses that we have to deal with.
Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. Good point about the opportunity cost. I didn't even think about that. I agree. As I said before, the village president is not going to appoint anybody from Lauterbach and Amon as treasurer unless she tells us right now otherwise.
No,
I'm judging by that stare that she's not. So that's why I propose this as a compromise to get us to the end of the budget cycle. To the earlier conversation, I think trustee Hoffenberger and I can come up with the things that I would like to see, that she would like to see, that we'd like to suggest the rest of the board to see, to your point. I don't know what would a payroll clerk look like. I don't know what would a AP clerk look like based on this. We have anecdotal, what they've been told. I need to see that from them. And again, to prove up to anybody that's still concerned, I'd like to see, this is the audit team, or this is the audit side of the business, this is the financial director side of the business. And I think, yeah, we can probably get those, and we could probably negotiate what we want this to be in the next 2 months, while,
2 weeks.
no, 2 months. And it would be, while that's going on, we don't have to worry about what's happening, and we need to convince the president that somebody from this company is worthy for her to put forth as a treasurer to us. We can help her do that. That's my, so with that, I would, if everybody's okay, I'd like to call the question.
Can we just make sure what we're calling? Is it
Yeah.
calling for you and I to
Right now, it's just to override the override the veto at this point, and then, actually, may I? One thing that just popped into my head, we can't compel the president to sign this. She can withhold her signature, even though we think we can tell her to. She physically doesn't have to sign this. So if we are thinking about going ahead with this, and we need to have a provision for either me to sign it as pro tem or finance chair, or we need to decide who's going to be executing it with advice of counsel on who's executing it. Because if I'm Lauterbach and Ammon and I see somebody that's not the chief executive and the clerk on this, I go to my lawyer right away and say, is this enforceable? So yeah, right now it's just to override the veto.
Mike, is it something that you would, understanding now that we will negotiate something, would you agree to drop, or can we table this discussion about overriding the veto, or is it a procedural
We
thing
have
that
to
must
do
be
it
done
tonight.
today?
Yeah, we have to do it tonight.
It would be much cleaner to let the veto go through, get rid of this contract, and start over.
That's true.
Be a lot cleaner. And I'll give you my word that I will talk to you about Lauterbach or another company, and we'll work through that. But it would be a lot cleaner to just drop this and let the veto go through.
Yeah, and I just want to add, you talked about payroll. Well, guess what? Payroll was done. Payroll was done expertly by Julie, and it's gone through, and they've done an excellent job. And we're just ignoring the fact that from the day Timothy quit to when Julie and Russ came in, everything is getting done. The only thing that Russ would like is for somebody to come in for a couple days to show him Cassell, and that's it, because he was never trained on Cassell. That's the only difference. And if you look at the details Lauterbach and Amen sent us, it's review, review, review. They don't really do the work. They review, and they review. Look at the attachments that they sent, and you'll see. So, all right, somebody make the motion that everybody can be comfortable with. What's the motion, Mike? That
Override the veto is the motion.
is override?
I already seconded the moving, I called it.
Okay.
Aye.
Trustee Millette, aye. Trustee Burson?
Aye.
Trustee Benetti?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Hassenberger?
Nay.
Trustee Muir?
Aye.
Okay, motion
Madam
passes.
President, I move action item 8B.
Okay, it's motion to the president's appointment of Michael O'Dwyer
Second.
to the Finance Committee, term ending February 3rd, 2029. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Janet. Discussion? Frank, go ahead.
So I want to make a comment. I don't have an issue with Mike O'Dwyer being on the Finance Committee, but again, I'm going to go back to when I came on this board after I got elected, actually even before I got elected. And I threw up red flags all over the place about how the finance and the budget was being handled. And I I'm going to reiterate this because I have done it before. I'm a strong believer, and I think Mr. O'Dwyer pointed this out, that the board has not been involved and has not been informed. And I was a very strong advocate, and I got beaten down that the trustees should participate in committees. And everybody was fairly unanimous on this board that said, we don't want that in Captain Hills, okay? So I would say, at least for the Finance Committee, that we either do a meeting of the whole or however, but at least 2 or 3 times a year, that the board participate with the Finance Committee, or at least a couple of trustees participate with the Finance Committee, so we can bring back information, and so that we would be aware that the Finance Committee is not being given the detail that they want, whether it's statements or whatever. That I think if we had more participation with the Finance Committee, as far as the trustees go, it would make a much better process, and it would keep the Board of Trustees much more informed on what's happening, so.
Mike, hold on. All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. I was that person, and you're right, I was wrong. In retrospect, thinking about that, my concern was, and I think I stated it a couple times, that the gravitas of the elected board can sway the conversation of the Finance Committee, but in putting my comments together and thinking about that, it's a working committee. And Trustee Benetti, you were absolutely correct. Whatever compunction I had specific to the Finance Committee, I still think I have concern about Public Works and others, but I 100% accede and acknowledge that you're right, I was wrong on that.
Kim, go ahead.
Yeah, I do believe our code actually states specifically with the Finance Committee that at least 1 or 2 trustees can be assigned to that committee. And I think that was back in the day. I remember being there with,
Okay.
so.
Okay, the item is the appointment of Michael O'Dwyer to the Finance Committee with a term expiring in 2029. Do you have a motion and a second, you could call it? Okay. I have a motion, do I have a first motion and a second? Okay, all right, let's call the question. Yeah, roll call, go ahead.
Trustee Millet?
Aye.
Trustee Burson?
Aye.
Trustee Benetti?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Hassenberger?
Aye.
Trustee Muir?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Madam
Good.
President, I move action item 8C.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay. Discussion? Mike? Go ahead.
As, to put it in the official record, the party said before, talking with Mike, one of the conditions is that we reestablish that the Finance Committee gets bank statements. We can redact the bank numbers, routing numbers, Administrator has a note for it. But I want that to be implied. If that doesn't happen, I want everybody in the room to know, then I'll get my soapbox out again.
All right, any other comments, questions? All right, Janet?
We have had some discussion amongst ourselves over the nature of committees generally and what a committee really even is. And I'll remind the public, I think everybody on the board knows, that committee, the word committee doesn't exist in the Illinois state statutes. Committees are apparently contemplated because there's other parts of the statute that presumes that they exist, but there is no guidance in the statutes for how committees are constituted. And the guidance that we got from IML when we started told us clearly that committees were creatures of the board. So they're effectively subcommittees of the board. And so I have the utmost respect for Mr. O'Dwyer. My only ask here as chair is that the job is to advise the board, and I would ask that you keep in regular contact with the board, because we've had a challenge in the past where this was treated as a presidential prerogative.
Okay. Ready for a vote? Roll call?
Trustee Millet?
Aye.
Trustee Muir?
Aye.
Trustee Benetti?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Burson?
Aye.
Trustee Hassenberger?
Aye.
Good, motion passes.
Madam President, I'd move motion to advise consent President's appointment of Patsy Smith as village treasurer,
Okay,
period. We can't term limit it.
all right. The second on that? Second by Treese, discussion?
Reiterate that Patsy and I have talked, she's out as of the end of the fiscal year, so that's our deadline. Well, you will serve until replaced. Yes. So, and there are duties of the treasurer in state statute. So we all need to be cognizant of that. And I also want to make sure that we talked about this here. I appreciate volunteering, thank you, but no, treasurer needs to be paid, and I would stipulate that the salary for the treasurer is the same as us, as the trustees.
All right. So we're adding that to the motion? Okay,
And that's correct. The village code does indicate that the village board sets the compensation, so that is appropriate to make that motion.
okay, do we have a second?
Because you're amending yours motion, yes.
Okay. Treese seconds, okay?
With the amendment.
All righty. Any more discussion? Otherwise, roll call. Nick, go ahead.
I do. So could we again clarify, I'm still missing something. So will Lauterbach and Amen assign a treasurer or not? They will. They will. So is there any reason why we're not considering that as a viable option? Why are we?
I think it was the compromise that Mike spoke of at the very beginning of the meeting.
Got it. Okay. Understood.
And it gives us continuity to the past, to the future.
So this being said, we are still looking to get Lauterbach and Amen started as quickly as possible.
Yes. But
Have we discussed any delays,
haven't-
other than in discussion, have we
we haven't-
agreed on any
We haven't at this
delays?
point, but we will before the meeting's over. Because I'll need direction when to execute, and if we're going to execute it with the pro tem.
All right, Mike, go ahead.
And again, the appointment authority is the village president. So we collectively need to make an effort to convince President Wadnicki that this individual, or one of these two individuals, or three individuals, we would like you that, if this goes away, we're thinking, work for the financial services side of Lauterbach and Ammon will become the village treasurer as of May 1st. So we've got 3 months to get her comfortable with whomever well, they have to propose who's available, right? Logistically, they have to decide who they think could do the job from their company based on workload and all that kind of stuff and other, whatever reason. And, 2 or 3 people would be nice for us to interview as a committee, as a board. And then, again, we have to get to the point where the president is willing to say, this is the individual I am going to propose to be village treasurer starting on May 1st. So that's what I'm thinking of. It could be another person. You're right. It could be, if we change the segregation of duties, we make the treasurer more of a ceremonial treasurer, where they're just doing the state reporting, that I think would be okay. But let's see what we have, because we don't know right now who they would. The other thing we don't have, this did not come with, this is the person we would recommend to be your treasurer. So we have to have that conversation.
Okay,
Can I just quick follow-up?
go ahead, Nick.
Just quickly, so, good, so I'm just confirming then that this is not a 30, 60, 90, 120-day replacement for Lauterbach and Amen. This is simply filling our treasurer's role. Okay.
And just for sake of clarity and alignment with the village code, the village code does indicate a term of 3 years for treasurer, but it does state until an appointment is, a successor appointment is made. Certainly either, what could create a new treasurer position would be a successor appointment, a resignation, indication that the person declined to perform their duties, move, anything. But if a new person is appointed, that 3-year term would no longer be in place. So I would approve the appointment, but you really should have the term end date for 3 years from now to align with the code, because it is what the code says.
All right, then I would amend my motion to Is it current term or from time of appointment?
Time of appointment.
Time of appointment.
Okay, then to run through February 2nd, 2029? Good grief, we still all going to be here then? All right. That'd be my,
It is one of the,
to match the code.
yeah.
It is one of the only, you should explain that.
It's
What
indicated,
was-
it's
yeah, what
indicated
was-
in the village code, it is past the, it is the,
2029.
past the end of the village's president's term. However, it's what the code says, and the current village president, or if there is a successor village president prior to those 3 years, that person can appoint someone else. So it's not a holdover appointment like if you were a planning commission member or another commission member that has the right to the end of your term.
Okay, are we ready to vote? All right, roll call.
Trustee Millet?
Aye.
Trustee Hassenberger?
Aye.
Trustee Benetti?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Burson?
Nay.
Trustee Muir?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Madam President, I would remove action item 8.9 to remove from the table ordinance 2612.
Okay. Do I have a second? Remove from the table?
Second.
Second by Janet. Okay. Oh, somebody's trying to come in. Okay, roll call?
Trustee Millet?
Aye.
Trustee Burson?
Aye.
Trustee Benetti?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Hassenberger?
Nay.
Trustee Muir?
Aye.
I'm sorry, was it? Aye, okay. All right, motion passes.
I would move, Madam President, to action item 8F to
Okay.
amend the organizational chart for the Village of Campton Hills.
All right, do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Nick. Discussion?
I'm on a roll.
You are on a roll.
I'm on a roll. This, so when we talk about this chart, and, wait, one of the past presidents left, okay. We have three of our,
She'll be back.
we have three of our four ever presidents, and I always assumed Harry would be, his heaven is some sort of beach somewhere where he's, you know, he's chilling, but maybe he's bored and he's watching us. I have this little thing. You can't see it from the cheap seats, but I'm going to read it to you real quick. Official Commission, State of Illinois, DuPage County, sworn statement, Village of Clarendon Hills, Illinois. To all whom these presents shall come greeting, Michael D. Millett, having been duly appointed to the office of Director of Public Works for the term from May 15, 2017 to May 20, 2019, is hereby fully authorized and empowered to assume and perform the duties of this office according to law. And all persons are required to respect him and the discharge of his duties given under this hand and seal of this date, 19th day of June 2027, Don M. Tandle, Village Clerk, and Tom Koenig, no, trying to remember the village president's name, I apologize. I kept this because it's cute in a way. But the point I'm trying to make is I was a commission, as the Director of Public Works, I have a commission from the Board of Trustees, sorry, from the Board of Trustees of the Village of Clarendon Hills. Other towns do this, most towns don't. I don't have one now from South Elgin. But it indicates that sometimes there's a duality of roles. That even though my appointment authority, my boss was the village administrator. However, in practical terms, the village administrator recommended to the village president, hey, I want to hire Mike as your public works director, he needs a commission. So when we look at, and if we get too focused on the exact box that we're looking at on these org charts, we need to understand that some of this is inherent. The other great example, and it goes to what we've been talking about here, it's not uncommon for places that don't have an elected treasurer. So cities generally still have elected treasurers. Some cities have appointed treasurers. Some villages have them. Most do not. Most have gotten, or sometimes have a comptroller. Most do not. Most automatically make the finance director the treasurer. If I'm wrong on that, somebody correct me.
That's correct.
And that means they are inherently a dual reporting person because there's state law that says certain things that the board cannot supersede them on. There are direction that they get from their administrator or manager who is their boss that does their review that the board doesn't opine on. However, as always, if I were to PO some person on the street in Clarendon Hills, and word got up to it, I would expect to be canned if it was egregious enough. So we still have input, even though the chart doesn't directly say that we have input. And to President Smith's, and actually I heard it from President Terrell, I understand that I don't know it in that I've never done it, but I understand from talking with you and working for Presidents Bill Mueller back in Lombard and others in other towns I've been in, Steve Ward currently, it's your business, your name's on the shingle, so to speak. I understand that. And you're gonna take pipe whether it's good or bad, I understand that. But the temptation to only go in and wanna fix a little thing here or a little thing there or give direction to this one employee there, that confuses the crap out of the employees. Standard operation for every time since I've been an assistant director and above, if I am contacted by an elected official to do something, I have a certain discretion. If it's not going to cost extra money, I can do it. If it doesn't violate village policy, I can do it. But I need to report back up to my manager or administrator. Trustee Smith called me and wanted me to do blank. I did it, I didn't do it. Or do you want me to do it? Because it's confusing otherwise. So the cautionary tale I've had for the three of you that are in the room is, it's a challenge. I recognize that from the cheap seats that it's a challenge. I recognize your instinct to want to make things right. But the challenge is sometimes the best intentions go awry. And if it leads to, and a classic example I've used is, Mom told me I couldn't go out to play, so I asked Dad. So Mom and Dad are now fighting because the kid played you. Most parents know better than to do that. So when we look at these organization charts, when we look at what I think doesn't violate anything, again, I'll get to that in a moment, it's a statement of the flow of information, the flow of direction, so that our citizens, when they look at it and they want to know what's going on, they can follow that. I freely acknowledge that, again, what's 2 + 2, village attorney? What do you want it to be? That we can ask and we can seek on this org chart another opinion, because we have one from here, as to does it materially change our form of government, and that would require a referendum or something. I don't feel it does, but again, I'm willing to acquiesce that there are those of you who think it does. So I would, in addition to moving this org chart, I would also agree to receive a proposal to engage, pick somebody, that's not Kleinthorpe, pick Ansel or pick Welsh or whoever, to take a look at it and tell us if we've done something that is going to change our form of government. And again, I'm nerdy enough, I like the original chart. I would be perfectly fine with it, it's cool. But I do understand that it could be complicated, and we're trying to, this is a communication tool for our employees, and more so, as much so for our residents. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay. All right. Did you have your hand up?
It's okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that would be my amendment, is to authorize staff to seek a second opinion from another legal firm.
Okay, all right. Do I have a second on
Okay.
that?
Parliamentary question, if I may. If there's another amendment contemplated, do we do the first one and then the second one, or can we have Trustee Millet amend his amendment or something?
He can amend his amendment or withdraw the first amendment and just make it as a clean amendment, yeah.
That'd be easier.
Therese, go ahead.
I don't think there
Yeah.
was
So I wanted to clarify with Mike what he's actually doing. We're not approving this until we have the opportunity, however, to have those reviews done, correct?
No, I think we should approve it, because then we'll get a real opinion.
And then what happens if I get an opinion that says that we need a referendum?
You won't, but sure.
I don't think we will, but if it does, then we can go back to the old chart. If we don't want to go to referendum, or maybe it's time we do go to referendum. If we honestly think it's time to solidify that we're council manager, I'm fine with that too.
Well, if you are saying that this is council manager, which I am, that's what he just said. That's exactly what he just said.
No,
I think
if
we
the
all
org
heard
chart
it.
that we're adopting sends us that way,
And it does.
we can make a decision.
Okay.
Yeah, Janet?
Sorry, I'm sorry,
Go ahead, Mike.
I'm on a roll.
That's
And the previous thing I said, we should remove the line that shows the direct connection from the village clerk to the admin.
Okay.
So what are the consequences of,
Second that amendment?
I'll second.
so what's the effect of the review? So the review, then, we would all look at the review. If it did come back from another source and it said that we absolutely cannot do this, we need, without a referendum, we would then take that back up in front of the board?
That'd be my intent. I would give to KT&J and see if if they have a refutation or something like that. Then we'd have to look, because then we're getting
Okay.
2 + 2 is 5, 2 + 2 is 3, and we have to decide.
Okay, are we ready to vote?
Can I clarify, are we authorizing an expenditure for outside legal services?
Yes.
Is there a not to exceed amount, since it's not, okay, I just wanted to,
Got a ballpark? 1,000?
it depends on who you ask, I guess. And I don't know what the scope of services is.
How about 2,500?
Okay.
Okay, then my final amendment, if trustee Burke, so is adopt the org chart, authorize staff to no more than 2,500 to get a second opinion on it, and remove the line that connects. That's it.
So staff
All right.
meeting,
Okay, do roll call.
Do you have a second on that amendment?
Second?
Second.
I'm sure. Okay, roll call.
Trustee Millet?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner? I'm sorry, Trustee Burson?
Aye.
Trustee Benetti?
Aye.
Trustee Burson? Or Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Hassenberger?
Nay.
It's becoming a long.
Trustee Muir?
Aye.
Okay,
Just,
motion
Madam President?
passes, yes.
Can I get clarity? Am I staff, and will you accept, I will get more than one law firm to give us a estimate of cost, if they can do that for 2,500, and send it, yep. No, well, yeah,
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
so I'll get more than one law firm to give an opinion, and
Just to be clear, I'm getting one. It was the authority was given to me, so,
I thought you said staff.
no, I'm doing
Yeah,
one.
yeah, we're gonna have trust, yeah,
I-
trust will do it.
The motion said staff. I think we need to stay with the motion.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, then take whoever Teresa thinks, give to Mark, and that's who we'll approve.
Does that go with trees?
Sure.
Okay,
Why,
okay. All right, we'll go to 8G. Approve ordinance 2614, amending Title I, Administration, Chapter 6, Village Board of Trustees of the Village Code regarding the setting of agendas for the Village Board of Trustees.
so
Motion?
moved.
Moved by Janet, second by
Second.
Nick. Discussion? Hearing none? No discussion?
Trustee Burson? Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Benetti?
Aye.
Trustee Hassenberger?
Aye.
Trustee Millet?
Aye.
Trustee Muir?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. We're on H. Motion to approve Resolution 26-11 regarding procedure applicable to village board meetings. Motion?
So
I'll make
moved.
the motion.
Frank?
I'll second.
Second? Okay, Janet made the motion.
I'll second
Frank seconded. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, roll call?
Trustee Burson?
Aye.
Trustee Benetti?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Hassenberger?
Aye.
Trustee Millet?
Aye.
Trustee Muir?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. I motion to approve Resolution 2610, authorizing the execution of a developer agreement. Motion?
So moved.
Janet, and second?
I'll second.
Kim? Discussion? I thought you had discussion. No?
I just had made some inquiries onto that, but,
Okay.
and,
You're set then?
yeah, it's good. It's just an agreement, and it was asked by Blackberry for us to make it official, so
Okay.
it's fine.
Any other discussion?
Just a brief comment. You'll notice the format's very similar to the agreement that was entered into with District 304, Geneva School District. The biggest difference is that there are no obligations by the village to pay anything out of the, if there is a TIF fund created. These are direct payments by the developer to the township should a TIF be created.
All right, roll call?
Trustee Burson?
Aye.
Trustee Muir?
Aye.
Trustee Benetti?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Hassenberger?
Aye.
Trustee Millet?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. J, motion to approve ordinance 2615, amend the intergovernmental agreement with Kempton Township Highway District for
Yes.
road maintenance in Blackberry Township.
On advice of the council, we have, Sam is communicated, he is now very much in line with the agreement and the condition to have additional insured and our COIs for, showing that we have insurance and the amounts needed for his insurance company to be satisfied. But since we did not have all of that text in a public document on the webpage, we can't execute it. And I was going to ask for the president's authority to sign it and ratify and confirm at the next meeting, but I defer to council saying we shouldn't do that.
Since there was no opportunity for anyone to review it, I'll just give a brief indication that the agreement is essentially staying the same as it is currently, except we're taking the section that talks about Plato Township roads and copying and pasting it and saying it Blackberry Township, and then actually laying out the, excuse me, so that the Campton Township Highway District will have the obligation to maintain those roads as well, just like they do in Plato Township. And then also specifically laying out the insurance coverage amounts, because that's what the Township Highway District's carrier wanted to have listed. So those would be the only changes. We'll circulate the agreement before the next meeting, and that way you can see it beforehand, before the packets come out.
Yep. But it is to the liking of Sam and the Township Highway District's desire, and their insurance carriers approved the document. And the village president saw the text from Sam to that effect. So it'll probably, if it's okay, we'll just put it on the consent agenda the next meeting for approval.
Just for clarification, Sam Galucci, for somebody maybe watching our meeting who doesn't know, is the Campton Township Highway Commissioner. So we have his approval. All right, very good.
What did we move from?
6I.
Mm-hmm.
Russ, right?
No,
Yeah, it's Russ.
mm-hmm, okay.
Motion to approve resolution 2608.
Appointing Russ Circa to budget officer, right?
Where are we? We're going back up there?
This was moved down.
Okay.
I became K.
Got it, okay. All right, discussion on Russ for budget off? Need a second? A second for Russ?
I'll second.
Frank? Okay. Discussion? And roll call.
Well, I'd like
Go
to make a
ahead.
comment since we called the question on the other one. Just to make a point, so everybody understands and the residents understand if anybody's watching, Tim was still employed here when we hired Russ. So the combination of expenses was always going to be higher than what they are with Lauterbach. So I'm sorry for talking out of turn maybe a little bit, but I did want to make
Tim
that
wasn't
point
here
that
when we
Tim was still employed here, and he was supposed to be training Russ, and so we agreed to hire Russ even when Tim was here at a much higher rate than what we're paying Lauterbach today. So just so that's out on record, so.
All right, roll call? Oh, Janet?
In addition, on that same topic, when we look at what the overall budget for Treasury Services is, we would have been paying Tim $10,000 for not doing anything over the last, 4 or 5 weeks, which we didn't. right? And we won't be until Lauterbach actually, that contract is executed. So, you get, out of your total budget that there's a concern that we're gonna overrun. I mean, you get $10,000 comes off of it every month that we sit around and talk about this without Tim on the payroll. So I think we're gonna find that it actually comes within budget when we add we had 2 people that were in that budget last year. We have a different number of people this year. Well, I'll just leave it at that. We're talking about.
Except that Timothy was overpaid, that's one issue.
That's
Right.
really not the question. He